welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Krista. I'm an international mama of two, a dental hygienist turned midwifery student. And here on my channel, I talk about all things motherhood, midwifery, pregnancy, and childbirth education. So if these are things that are of interest to you, please follow along and get ready to birth and bloom. Hello, hello. I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for joining me here at Birth and Bloom. So today, if you're watching this video, it is Father's Day. So because it's Father's Day, I wanted to do a video that's centered more towards the dads. And I am going to dedicate this video to my amazing, wonderful husband and father to my two beautiful children, Dave. He is an amazing guy, and I will be thinking of him a lot when I talk to you about all of my tips that I have for you dads. So if you're ready, let's get into it. All right, so like I said, this video is going to be all about preparing you, the dads or the dads to be, for labor and birth and the postpartum period. And this video was recommended to me to film from an old college friend. She was getting ready to have her second baby, and she said, oh, it would be a nice idea to do a video about how to prepare dads for labor and birth. And unfortunately, I'm getting to this video a little late. She has since had her second baby, and I think she and baby are doing amazing and wonderful. So sorry, Selena, got to this a little too late. But hopefully this helps some other families and moms and dads. And if you're a pregnant mom watching this right now, not with your partner or husband, feel free to come back to it and watch it with your significant other to help better prepare them for the whole labor, birth, and postpartum period. Okay, so these are just gonna be some tips that I have to relate to as far as my two birth experiences and what worked well for me and my husband. Okay, so when I had my first daughter, this was 2020. We all know it was a weird time in the hospitals, weird time in the healthcare system, was what it was. But in 2020, I had my baby in December. My husband and I decided that we were gonna do a Lamaze childbirth education course in person, which was amazing. I'm so glad that we had that opportunity. We actually did it with one of my best friends, Laura. She's a childbirth educator, and we were in there with another couple, and it was about a 2 or 3 day long course in person, like I said, and it was wonderful. So whether you do a Lamaze class in person or you find an online childbirth education course, I think it is so important to do a childbirth education course, and not just you, mom, but dad or partner, okay? So moms and dads should have a very, you're not gonna be an expert, but you should at least have a general understanding of what labor and birth and the postpartum period are going to be like. So why is this so important? If you've watched my videos in the past, you know that I am like extremely just obsessed with the fact that I know that childbirth education is so important for you to have a positive experience, and even if it doesn't go exactly how you want, you at least have an understanding of what's normal. If things feel like they're going a bit awry, you have an understanding of what labor and birth is gonna look like and how it unfolds naturally. So that's my biggest advice, is that make sure that you're gonna do a childbirth education course with your significant other. So that way they are prepared for the throes of labor while you're actively in it. You know, for example, my husband, in my first labor, I had a medical induction, and it was an intense labor. I was induced with Pitocin, and Pitocin contractions are hard. And he was a wonderful support person with me. This was obviously our first labor and birth experience, and he was wonderful. But there was a point in my labor that he got scared, quite frankly. I was entering transition. In hindsight, I know that now, but at the time, I had been laboring for a long time. Contractions were really intense and back to back, and I decided that it was time to get the epidural. And while I was getting the epidural, I was really shaking. And in my mind, I had done a lot of research and educated myself thoroughly at that point. So in my mind, I knew that the shaking was normal. But my husband, who was forced to sit, by himself and watch the epidural process, was watching me like convulse and shake while I had a needle in my back. And there was a group of people around me, and no one looked to him to say like, hey, are you okay? She's okay, this is normal. So for him, that was a little bit of a traumatizing point in my labor, for him to witness me going through what seemed like a really intense experience. I was in a lot of pain and I was doing a lot of shaking. So it's all good, it was all fine, but that is something that really stood out to him with my first labor experience, because he was unaware of the fact that that shaking is normal, it can be normal, especially once you're entering that transition period of labor. So if you're aware of the stages of labor, like we've talked about in previous videos, you know that that hormonal shift can cause shaking, and that's what was going on there. Okay, so another really important thing is to go over birth plans together. As a mother, you were pregnant for 9 months. It's a really long time, but you have to remember that dads don't really feel like dads until the baby is out of your womb and into the world and in their arms. It's just the nature of it, guys. Women and men are much different, and as the pregnant mother, you are all consumed in your pregnancy for the 9-10 months, and dads doesn't really click until the baby's actually in the world. So it's really important to go over a birth plan, go over your birth preferences as you take the time to learn about what you want in your birth, and as you do the work and the time to prepare. It's really important to communicate with each other about what you want for your birth. Okay, so talk about, I want to wait for optimal cord clamping. What is optimal cord clamping? That is when the blood of the umbilical cord has completely made its way to the baby. The cord itself is going to be white and limp. It's not going to be pulsating anymore. And then you know that the blood from the placenta has made its way into your baby, and then is a great time to clamp and cut the cord. Sidebar, in many hospitals, they will say that they do delayed cord clamping, but I would really recommend you ask, what does that mean to you? How long are they not going to clamp and cut the cord? Some say 60 seconds, some wait for 3 minutes, some wait for 5 minutes. This is why it's really important to know what you want and why you want it, because you need to be able to request, do not touch the cord until it's completely stopped pulsated, and then then it's okay in your mind to allow the clamping and the cutting to happen. And also, is dad gonna cut the cord? That's something that's really traditional to incorporate the fathers into, and it's a little bit ceremonial to cut that cord. So dad, do you wanna cut the cord? Mom, do you want dad to be part of that there? So all things to consider. There are many, many aspects that go into preparing a birth plan, and I'm not going to go into all of that in this video here, but I encourage you to look them up online. There are so many amazing templates and good examples, and go through it and think about, I haven't thought about the HEP injection. I haven't thought about the erythromycin eye ointment. I haven't thought about the vitamin K. I haven't thought about circumcision. I haven't thought about epidurals. I haven't thought about an emergency cesareans. There are so many factors and parts of the labor and birth process that you really should be aware and know what your ideal preferences are. Things can happen, of course, but you need to sit together, go through your birth plan, go through your birth vision of how you want this day to go, and how you guys can collaboratively work together to have the best experience possible. Okay, so more on that. I recommend, alongside doing a childbirth education class, watch birth documentaries. I strongly recommend watching The Business of Being Born. That's an old school one. It was done years and years ago, but it's still very relevant today. That was made by Ricky Lake and another woman, and it's really worth watching. My husband and I watched it when I was 36 weeks pregnant with my first daughter. And it was an intense thing to watch right before I gave birth. So that's a good one. I also recommend watching more videos like this. I hope you can go through my previous videos that I've already recorded, watch some of those. Hopefully they're helpful and educational for you. There's also incredible content creators all over YouTube that share a lot of wonderful birth education as well. You could literally search positive birth vlogs and watch the woman laboring and swaying and moving and the sounds that she's making. Just watching videos of these really vulnerable women that are sharing their birth experiences for the world. It's incredible to watch women in labor, whether they have a fully natural birth or not. You're gonna hear the sounds that she's making during labor. If you're watching an unmedicated labor, that's bonus points. You're gonna hear the changes in her sounds when she's approaching transition or when she's in the pushing period. I think it's really important to understand what normal is. So there could be some yellow flags that kind of come up if you feel like something is not right, whether that's you, mom, if that's in your own body, or even dads. If the mom is in labor land and you feel like something is not quite right and you can have your little spidey senses go off, I think that's really important to say to the nurse or your midwife or the doctor, like, hey, Sarah really seems like she's having a hard time coping, like, or whatever the issue is and whatever potential concern that you have. I think it's really helpful to be tuned in and watch your wife or baby mama go through this experience and know, just be able to sense what's normal, that she's doing okay, that she's coping well. And if something doesn't feel right, then it's okay to speak up to your healthcare practitioner and chat a little bit, just kind of on the sidelines. Okay, so like I said, YouTube videos are great. There's amazing just birth videos on Instagram and the reels there. Those are worth sharing, of course. Documentaries, all of that. So that's great. Okay, and for dads, it's super important to mentally prepare yourself for the labor and birth and even the postpartum period. You need to be okay with the fact that labor and birth are going to be about mom and the baby. If you have a great care team, of course they're gonna, keep an eye on you, make sure that you're doing okay, make sure that you have what you need. But at the end of the day, the care team's main focus is going to be on that mother and her baby. And you are a part of that team, of course, but if at the end of the day, it's not gonna be their sole responsibility to focus on you don't have enough pillows, you don't have a blanket, are you staying hydrated, oh, your chair's not comfortable to sleep in, whatever. You just kind of have to get over that, because at the end of the day, you are not the one pushing a baby out of your body, and you are not the one that's potentially having major abdominal surgery to have this baby. So though we care about you dads, we absolutely do. It is just important to know and be mindful that mom and baby are the utmost top priority, okay? And if you hire a doula, I do think it's really lovely that doulas are going to be mindful of the birth partner's needs as well. So in my second labor, when I was giving birth, I had a water birth, and I remember my doula, or I didn't know this until after, but my doula had slipped a pillow under my husband's knees while he was kneeling at the edge of the birth tub. And that was nice, he had a little bit of cushion while he was there to support me. So yes, just be mentally prepared that you are not going to be the center of the focus. You're also a very important part of this team. You made half of this baby, but mom and baby are the top priority. So just check yourself, okay? Don't complain to your wife, because your wife is going through one of the most intense experiences she'll ever experience in her whole life, and she doesn't care that the chair that you have to sleep on is uncomfortable, okay? Sorry. Okay, so also, this kind of goes along with going over the birth plan and kind of what the expectations are in labor. I think it's really lovely if you take a break and take a step back and take a photo of your wife laboring. Take photos of mom and baby after the baby is born. If you have a doula or a birth photographer, obviously that's their role, but if you don't, it's really nice to just document throughout the labor and birth experience, because these are like core memories that you're going to want to hang on to, and they'll be imprinted in your mind, but having the physical photos is really nice as well. So just, something to be mindful of. Okay, so another thing, this just talking more about like your role as the labor partner. So with the childbirth education, generally you're going to learn about some coping techniques that you can do to help mom, whether that's hip squeezes or counter pressure or a nice massage or just aromatherapy, any of these natural coping techniques that are going to help mom, you're going to kind of practice in that childbirth education course. And you can practice them with mom prior to the onset of labor. I think that's really helpful. But also know that when your wife is in labor, she may not want you to touch her at all. And that's okay. I kind of fall into that category. My second labor, I did not want people touching me. My labor was really fast, so there was not that long of a period to have like counter pressure or someone rubbing my back or whatever. In my first labor, my husband and I just pretty much stood and swayed like I was his chest, my back. We kind of like rocked and swayed like in the prom pose throughout like 90% of my labor. And that was really nice. I didn't want any of the extras. I just wanted to move with him and feel like I was being supported. So though you practice these different things, you may not use any of it, or you may. Your wife may like demand you to be squeezing her hips like 90% of your labor, and you're probably gonna be a little tired. So if you like listen to your body as well, if you need a drink, get a drink. If you need food, get food. If you need to use the restroom, go use the toilet. You know, mom is the focus, but also you need to be strong and well to best support her. Okay, so don't forget that. And it's also important to anticipate her needs. Women in Laborland, do not want to be asked a million questions. You know your wife, you know your spouse, anticipate her needs. Does she probably need a sip of water? Get her the water. Does she need a hair tie? Get her the hair tie. Does she need chapstick? Get her the chapstick. I'd rather you anticipate her needs or your perceived anticipation of her needs and her dismiss you, opposed to her being like, Jason, grab the water or whatever. Like, you don't need to be in conflict at all during the labor process. She's going to be having a very intense experience, and it's really wonderful if you are able to anticipate her needs. You're not going to know everything. You're probably not going to get everything right, but just do everything you can to be a strong support system for her, because what she is going through is out. Like, it's just, she's going through a life-changing out-of-body experience, and she needs you to be a stable rock to best support her and get her through this extremely intense period. Okay, so let's pretend you went through the intensity of labor, you went through the intensity of the pushing phase, and mom has had the baby. Soak it in. This is an incredible moment for you as well. This is your child too. Give mom her time, her moments. If she wants to have the baby on her chest for the entire hospital stay, let that baby stay where mom wants the baby to be. But for example, if mom is maybe having issues with bleeding, or the placenta is not delivering right away and the cord's cut and the baby's handed off to you, you are that baby's safe place. Get your baby skin to skin with you, a nice blanket around you. That skin to skin contact with mom is incredible, but also on you, it's also equally incredible for that baby. So you don't know how the labor and birth are gonna go, but just be prepared that you are two in line if mom is having to have a little extra attention or something like that. So let's talk a little bit more about the immediate postpartum period. If this is your first baby, you cannot be prepared for what that experience is like until you've gone through it. If this is your second, third, etc. baby, you know that it's a very tender time, but it's different each time, right? So every labor, every pregnancy, every labor, every birth, every postpartum is going to be different, whether it's your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever baby. Okay, but specifically, if this is your first baby, it's normal to anticipate to be sleep deprived. You're going to have to be a rock for your wife. one is going through a massive physical recovery, whether that was a vaginal birth or cesarean. Either is a recovery, and depending how the delivery experience went itself. It may have gone really smooth, or it may have been more intense. Nevertheless, your wife just gave birth and she is going to have to rest, stay off her feet, stay in bed. She may need some assistance using the restroom or whatever. It's a big deal, okay? So it should not be disregarded how massive giving birth is, and you need to cater to your lady. You need to cater to her. She's a freaking queen. She just did an amazing thing. So anticipate being sleep deprived, being tired. Your world is gonna focus around your mother, or the mother of your child and your baby, and that's the biggest thing. Be prepared for your wife to probably have some big feelings. She's gonna be really ecstatic and blissed out. And then she's probably gonna cry because she loves this baby so much, or she's gonna cry because she's really tired, or her boobs hurt, or she's in pain. There are so many factors to the postpartum period, especially those first few days to weeks, that are really intense. So I think it's important for you to know, as the dad, that your wife is going through a lot. She just went through a massive life transition from maiden to mother, and it's an intense period of time. It is a roller coaster. Depending on how things went, she may have a little bit of baby blues. She may not, which would be great, but just know that postpartum is a very emotional time. Your hormones have plummeted. You have big life changes where you are now a new mom. You're taking care of this new little human that you just met. If you're a breastfeeding mom, that's a whole other thing. That's a lot to just then go from a massive experience like birth to then nurturing and nursing your new baby and learning that relationship. So just give yourself grace. Give your wife grace. If she's ready to bite your head off, do not take it personal. Take a step back, realize that she has just gone through so much, and that she is trying to figure it out the best she can, as quickly as she can. But the postpartum period is a very, very tender time. It's not the time to pick fights. It's not the time to expect her to do her roles around the house. This is your time to take care of older children if you have other kids, to take care of the household items, to cook, to clean, to do the laundry, take out the trash. Mom's main focus is recovering and healing and breastfeeding that baby and recovering, okay? So this is gonna be your time to shine, Dad. You need to step it up and do your part, because your wife just brought new life into the world. Okay, and lastly, just remember that you're a team. You are a team. Having a new baby and growing your family can put a lot of stress on a family. It can be a really hard time. Of course, there's so much love and joy and bliss, but at the same time, there's a lot of transitional feelings that you need to feel. You might miss your old life. You might be sad that you don't just have an only child anymore. You might have struggles breastfeeding. You might have struggles in the sleep department. The list of things that can happen and do happen are endless. But that being said, the hard times pass. It gets easier. You are on the same team. So act like it, please. Do your role. Mom will do her role. Work together. Remember why you made this baby in the first place, and just be there for each other. Once you get past the hard early days, it does get better. Life gets lighter again, and you can enjoy the beautiful, beautiful family that you created together. So those are my main tips as far as focusing on dads, getting you prepared for pregnancy and labor, birth, and the postpartum period. I really hope this was helpful. Like I said, moms, if you're watching this solo, feel free to bookmark it and save it for later and watch it again with your husband and go over these things maybe closer to once you're actually due. If you don't already follow me over on Instagram, you can hop over there and follow me, where I share more content and I share when there's new YouTube videos coming. My handle is Birth and Bloom, birth_and_bloom_. And please make sure to subscribe, like, and share if you found this video to be helpful. I just would love to help get the word out about the content that I'm putting out there. I really am so passionate about helping other young families because this is just the most important and incredible period of our lives, and I know that it should be honored, and I just want to do my part to help others go into the parenthood journey. Okay, so happy Father's Day for the dads to be and the dads that are already dads. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.